Welcome in to an episode of Chiefs Focus Live. We've got a full show for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about a couple of games that have happened over the last week. And once again, I have a controversial opinion that more people might believe in as the more and more we discuss it. We got this running the show in the background. My name's Quentin Morris. And now a guy who is ready to not pay attention to football for the next 20-ish days. It's the old man himself, JP. How are we doing
man,
tonight?
how you doing? I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Chiefs have won 2 games in less than a week.
3 games in 11 days.
3 games in 11 days. It has been a gauntlet and what Kansas City has had to go through. They've had to face 3 good teams over less than 2 weeks. They've won all 3 of them. They avoided presumably long-term injuries. It seems like Chris Jones, he should be fine. I mean, they get a month off, right? So they've earned it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he could have actually went, by the way, in the Pittsburgh game.
Yeah.
And he wasn't very happy that he didn't go, but that was an Andy decision, and I'm glad that Andy made that decision.
I mean, they didn't need him. This was the best that the pass rush had looked maybe all year. Funny enough. And I know that, look, Russell Wilson, one, is not the Russell Wilson of old, so he can't avoid sacks the way that he used to. But also, his entire career, he's had a problem with running into sacks. He's the number one reason. He's my argument as to why sacks are a quarterback stat. And so for the Chiefs to sack him 5 times, context is everything. But this is a pass rush where you don't have your game wrecker and you were still able to be effective. They once again held, they still don't have a running back to go over 100 yards this year. Nope. They were able to hold both the running backs under 100 yards. Now, both of them had 2 big carries, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. But, the stat still holds. And they were able to keep an explosive Pittsburgh offense under, to 10 points. This was a team that really seems to be falling apart, if we're being honest, in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Same with Houston Texans, right? 2 teams that
I feel bad for them.
That really have been falling apart over the last few weeks. But, just like in all sports, timing is everything when you face guys. And Kansas City just seems to be coming up on a couple of teams that are playoff teams are for the Houston Texans winning their division, and for the Steelers, they're a 10-win team with some good wins on their resume. And, you handled both. Those were the 2 best wins of the year, and it's not even close. It's not even close.
Exactly. I agree. First of all, let's talk about the Texans game, because we had, I believe, 5 sacks in that game as well. Could have been 4, but I want to say 4 to 5. The last 2 weeks, the defense has been extremely dominant. From the line to the secondary, they've been awesome. But man, I really feel for that football team. They're actually a class act organization. They really are. If you want to model yourselves after a couple of organizations and you're an NFL entity, Chiefs and Texans, they're both great organizations. Good coaches, good players. Tank, man, I feel so bad for Tank.
Look, dude, man, Tank Dell, you could not have torn anything more in your knee.
And here's the bad part about it, is that could actually, as much as I hate to put this out there,
it might end his career.
It might end his career at 23 years old, 24 years old. It's going to end his career. Or it could. He's definitely out for the entirety of next year, for sure. And God knows what happens after that. Look, man, everything he did to his knee, and it was a non-contact injury. It was just something that happened. And it's just sad. One thing it goes to kind of show you is that it was probably ready to go. There was something in his knee that was ready to pop at that point, because honestly, he didn't come down on it that hard. It was just timing and the way he came down on it. And
it was a little friendly fire.
It was.
Where he had I don't even remember who it was. Ran into him, and then he slid in the back of the end zone, and then he came up. But you could see on you could see his knee was just not right.
Dude, you don't want to look on coach's film and re-see that.
No, it looked like a dislocated finger.
It did. It was just sad, and the way when it was so quick when it happened, the original hit, And the way he was holding his hand, and hey man, all props to him, he held on to the ball, but the way he was holding his hand, I thought he broke his hand because he had his hand twisted a certain way, and he just looked, and I think that was just from the pain. I thought, okay, he broke his hand maybe. But then when I watched the replay, and then they never showed it again, but I watched it in slow mo on coach's film, and I thought, oh my god. I mean, his leg really went three different directions. His thigh to his calf, they were just separated almost.
Well, I've never seen them bring the cart out, pull the cart away, and then bring out another cart, the hospital cart.
That was basically an ambulance.
I've never seen that happen before. Usually, they put them on the cart, and then they take it to the locker room, and then they deal with it there. I've never seen that before. So
the only time I had seen it was with Alex Smith. When his bone was protruding from his leg, they brought out the cart that was covered, and it was basically an ambulance is what it is. But I tell you, I just feel bad for that kid. I mean, he's got a great career, or he had a great career in front of him, and I'm hoping he still does. But and look, see, Stroud took it really bad, and that just tells you his character because he's a good dude. I mean, he really was upset about it, and it wasn't because he lost his best wide receiver. It was because they're friends, and he didn't want to see that happen. The way he acted, he almost hurt it, and it's just sad. But anyway, that Texans game kind of proves something to me. First of all, Hollywood Brown is a force. And when he's out on the field, along with everyone else, it's scary. It's scary for defenses. They don't know which way to go. Andy's got a different playbook for another good wide receiver. And it's looking like, let your comments show up on the show. Okay. It looks like he's, with what he's been able to do in the 2 weeks he's been back, has been phenomenal. And honestly, we thought he wasn't going to be back, and the team thought he wasn't going to be back until the Pittsburgh game. But he was ready to go in that Texans game, and he was a force. I don't know, man. This team has changed. Talk about peaking at the right time.
I know. I almost want to break down like every position. I think the first place we have to start is the offensive line.
That is huge.
Kansas City has faced they faced Cleveland with the best arguably the best pass rusher in football, Myles Garrett. Mm-hmm. They faced the Texans, who have the best duo pass rushers in the NFL because they're the only team in the NFL that has two edge rushers with 10 plus sacks.
Yep.
And then they just faced TJ Watt. Patrick Mahomes was sacked 0 times by any of them.
Correct.
He has been very well protected from both the adjustment that they made by moving Tooney over to left tackle. And even though Jawan Taylor continues to get penalties, he's keeping Patrick Mahomes clean. So,
well, I mean, that's the problem. And look, regardless of how you look at it, he can, no matter, I'm never going to be on his side with this. I'm just not. He's holding horribly because he can't guard. He can't do his job. And that's frustrating to me. Wanya Morris did a better job in that position, which I knew he would because that's his natural position. There's no way out of it. But you're right. Mahomes is protected, and it's cost us a lot of yardage. It could cost us in a lot of other ways if he doesn't quit that. But my problem was the only problem that I had in both of those games, or I'd take it back, not the Texans game, but with the even when he was in the Texans game, is that they don't give him any help. And I think when you see the help going on the left side, but you don't see it on the right side where the problem really lies, it's a little frustrating. He needs somebody to chip block with him. And they're just not giving it to him. And it may be because, like, fuck it. We pay your ass $20 million a year, do your fucking job. Or I really don't know what the reason is. I've not even asked because I don't want to know. I just know that he needs help, and they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do moving forward next year, because eventually those penalties will end up costing you in the long run. And that's the only thing I have to say about that. But the offensive line, look, man, Caliendo stepped in, phenomenal player. He's our new Algoretti, is who he is.
He, this is he stepped in and he's done He's done a phenomenal job. When you
He
get
really has.
an offensive lineman to step in midway through, most of the way through the year, and his name isn't called, and like I said, the Chiefs have been facing some great pass rushers that move around, right? Like when they were trying to run stunts, he wasn't a guy that was getting burned. So, yeah, I mean, the offensive line, just from that point right there, they've done a great job over the
They
last
have.
2 weeks.
They have.
That right there has already been, that should be scary enough for the rest of the NFL, right? The
Absolutely. And
fact
the
that,
fact,
they've seemed to figure their shit out, right, over the last gauntlet of games that they've gone up against. That's the
yeah,
most impressive thing for me. The next thing that I wanted to hit on is the Chiefs wide receiver room. You already hinted at it with Hollywood Brown, but Xavier Worthy deserves a ton of love
oh
too
my
over the
God.
last couple of games. Worthy, it just seems like the light bulb went off. And
And
it
that's
was
every week he's progressively gotten better.
it's
And
got a
people
little
just,
better. And then I think that with Hollywood Brown coming back in, these not even back in, he's here for the first time.
yeah,
This is, I think it all just meshed well together. Like, oh, it's go time. This is the moment, and it's all sort of coming together, and it's just working out so well for Kansas City. What's crazy to me is that Hollywood Brown and Patrick Mahomes already have a connection. There was
yeah.
no like runway, there
Well, they
was
had a
no.
connection. You think about it. They were in Texas together. They worked out all off season together, and during training camp, and then that happens in the first preseason game. So they really worked well together to begin with. It's just he stepped in. And it was like it never ended,
Yeah,
and
I
that
mean,
was the
it
great
really
part.
did. There was no beat skipped. I mean, it was
No,
just right away, and that to me was impressive. Because I was thinking, okay, they're going to use the next couple weeks to sort of, knock the rust off, and then by the time the playoff comes around, we'll get going. No, I mean it was right away, and I thought
absolutely.
that should be scary for the rest of the NFL to see that Hollywood Brown getting right back into it. We all know what Travis Kelce is, and he continues to show his ability to beat the soft zones, right? I can't tell you how many times was he just nobody was 4 yards within. He had a circle around him of nobody, of open
Yeah,
grass. It was
yeah.
4th and 2. The one guy that you need to make sure that you're on is Travis Kelce, and there was nobody within 7 yards of him.
And
That
that's the
stuff,
beauty of having Hollywood Brown back in the lineup. It really is.
yeah.
Think,
How many times do we talk about this on both sides of the ball, right? Where you've got, hey, when it's the got to have it mode, I need you to take care of this guy. Somebody else has to beat us. And for whatever reason, it just seemed like yesterday they were just willing to let Travis Kelce be the guy that beat us.
yeah,
And if you're going to continue to have that, whether it's because, you know, they are really that worried about Hollywood Brown or whatever the reason is, I don't really care. The fact is that the Chiefs were able to move the chains through the air, and it really wasn't contested. I mean, I never in that game yesterday, never was I worried about the Steelers making a comeback. I never
no,
felt like they ever had anything going. It
no,
never felt like the Steelers were like, you know, you never really felt like, hey, the Chiefs are dominating this game. But man, how are the Steelers still in this game, right? As Chiefs fans, we've been on both sides of that, where it's
yeah,
like, hey, the Chiefs are getting their ass kicked right now, and yet we're only down by 10, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Or on the flip side of it, we're kicking their ass right now, and yet we're only up by 10. I know that they were only up by 13 by the end of the second quarter, but it was like, yeah, it's 13, but they haven't done jack
It's
shit.
like a lot of. It's like a huge 13-point
It
lead.
felt it yeah,
It felt
it
like
felt
40 points. I mean,
as soon as the Chiefs got the ball and they drove down the field, it's like, oh, this is just different.
yeah, yeah. It just felt different. The whole day felt different. The game was. It was fluid. Everything just kept moving and moving, and it moved in the right direction. I. The one thing I will say is that I am. I don't want to say this without being a dick. How would I say this? Pittsburgh is not a good playoff team. And I say that simply because every team they're going to, well, for the most part, especially with coming in the seed they're in, the teams that they have to play are going to kick their ass and they're probably not going to get past the first round.
Yeah.
And I look, man, TJ Watt's a great player. Georgie Boy has got a real problem, and I think he's going to have to humble himself a little bit. If anybody out there wonders why we didn't take him or go for him in the draft, there's your reason.
I think he's gonna this is gonna lead to some interesting offseason discussions.
Absolutely.
I think the entire offseason we're gonna get a whole lot of, hey, George Pickens to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I think there's gonna be a ton of those rumors.
I don't want him.
I'm just telling you right now.
Yeah.
That's gonna happen. There are gonna be reports that come out, and we're gonna have to talk about it at least 3 different times that George Pickens to Kansas City is going to pop up.
It will, but the thing is that first of all, it won't happen. But second of all, I wouldn't want him even if they were interested. Look, man, there's certain guys that you can look at them and go, okay, he's fixable. He's not. Right now, he's not fixable. He's not a happy guy. He hasn't been happy for a couple of years, but he just doesn't seem to. He's not a team player in a lot of ways. I understand they're in a really crappy situation. I get it. You got a quarterback that's aged, that thinks he's way better than he is, thinks his team's way better than they are. You got Mike Tomlin out there saying, I think I'm going to give him a 5-year, $140 million contract. He's going to get extended. He's the future. He's not the future. He's been washed up for 4 or 5 years. I'm sorry, but he has. I don't know why he's still playing the game. I don't know if it's to impress his wife. I really don't know what it is. Maybe he doesn't have anything better to do in life. He's just not a good ball player anymore. He's got some flashes here and there when he's wide open, not touched. His wide receivers are wide open. I mean, you and I can do that. We can go out in the backyard and throw to each other and we're probably going to catch the ball. But he doesn't have the skill set.
He's not the Russ of old.
No.
This is not Seattle Russell Wilson from 7 years ago.
Yeah, 7 years ago. Because the last 3 or 4 years he was with Seattle, he was terrible. Look, man, his numbers right now, think about this. He's averaging 157 yards a game. 162 yards a game. And 1.2 touchdowns. So that's been his numbers since 2019. He's just not been that good. Pete Carroll saw it. He saw his attitude. He saw everything. Denver found out real quick. Didn't take them long to figure it out. So I'm really surprised that Mike Tomlin decided to make him the starter. If it would have been me, look, man, I would have, if I had the choice between the 2 that he's got now, I probably would have stuck with Justin Fields. Simply because he did win. He won in pretty convincing fashion, 4-2 as a starter for them. But he's more mobile. He may not have the intelligence yet or the knowledge yet, which he should by now, but he doesn't completely. But he's a more athletic player. And if you're going to depend on your legs as much as Russell Wilson depends on his, that really don't do him any good. It's like that car that sounds really fast, but when you look at it and they got it floored and the car's going 30 miles an hour, that's Russell. He makes it look good until he doesn't, which is usually about 5 or 6 seconds after he has the ball in his hand. Because he starts to run in the backfield, can't make the corner, and then gets trampled. They're going to have a lot of repairs to do. And I look, man, don't get me wrong, but I think Mike Tomlin might be done there.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far.
I think he might be, dude. They haven't made the playoffs in a long time. And this is their first year of making it. I'm going to give him credit for that. Man, he's made some major mistakes with quarterbacks since Roethlisberger left.
I think they're one of those teams that's too good to fall into the, draft a quarterback. They're in that awkward phase where Kansas City was for a long time. And they just
Kansas City never wanted to draft a quarterback though.
But they can't seem to, there's no Alex Smith out there to save them.
No, there's really not. There's not. I mean, they could have had one. I can tell you who that guy is Sam Darnold. They could have easily signed him.
No, hey, he's probably going to hit the free agent market So,
Well, you know what?
but
He might end up there
um,
because look, man, they need to get something going up there, and he may not want to go there. He may just turn them down, and I wouldn't blame him if he did. He's played too well with the team he's with. Got him in the playoffs. They've lost 2 games, dude. 2 games. They are a good football team. They're the sneaky one in the NFC that everybody thinks they're not going to do shit. They're the sneaky team in the NFC. You mark my words. I'm going to say it now. That's the team that everybody's got to watch out for in the NFC when it comes to these playoffs. But getting back to them, I think they're a quarterback short. They seem like they're in some ways coaching. They're hurting on coaching because their players just don't respond well, and it's very strange that they're falling apart the way they are. Will wanted to know if there's any update on Pacheco. He didn't break anything, from what I understand. Everything he didn't break it. It was more bruised. His ribs.
it seemed like if he needed to go back in, he might have gone back in.
Yeah. Look. That's you said it. You nailed it. If Andy wanted him to go back in, he could have gone back in. I've been saying this. I said it after the Texans game. I'm going to say it again. I like Pacheco. I think he's a good player. He does not have the patience, vision, or ability to break the tackles. He runs headfirst into linemen. There was a play during the Texans game that proved every time I've said this, I've gotten shit. I don't really care. But there was a play in the Texans game where he got the ball, and instead of looking at all, he ran headfirst into 3 linemen, defense and offense. He had an opportunity to bounce off of that and go to the left, and it was wide open for about 25 yards. He chose to try to push 3 guys that weighed 1,000 pounds together like he was going to get any further than that. That's the difference between him and Kareem Hunt. Yeah, Kareem Hunt doesn't have the speed. I'm going to give you that. But he has everything else to make up for that speed loss. He can break tackles. He knows how to get that extra 2 or 3 yards by leaning and falling down. He finds every open hole. He breaks tackles better than, most running backs in the league. And he doesn't even try to break them. It's just his ability to be able to move his body and his legs and his feet to break those tackles. He doesn't try to push everybody down. He just does what he's done his entire career. We know he couldn't have stayed here for a little bit, but he was able to come back in 21. We said it in 21 on our show. We got all kinds of shit for it. They said he'd never be back. He's back. He is the key to this running game. It's that simple. Pacheco needs to learn from him. There are different styles of running backs. I know that. The difference is that Pacheco's not big enough to be a Christian Okoye. He's not big enough to be a Derrick Henry. He just doesn't have that size. So Kareem knew that when he came into the league. I'm not the biggest guy on the planet, so let me technique this through. And that's what he did. That guy, look, man, he's coming back next year for the Chiefs. There's no doubt he's coming back. And I'm glad he is.
I don't see why not. You can always use a guy like that.
God.
You can always use another, especially in this league, especially in this offense, right? Where it's not running back driven. You're always going to need another running back like that.
He's just too talented, man.
Yeah.
Why would you allow him to go somewhere else? And what he doesn't want to. Why would you ever let somebody that talented with his skill set, the fact that he's not injury prone, and he's able to go out there and run the ball 20, 25 times? Why would you let that guy go? It'd be stupid. Stupid.
There are a couple of Chiefs defensive players that I'd like to give shout outs to.
Absolutely.
The first one that I want to give a shout out, Mike Dana.
Yeah, man.
Shout out. The guy had 5 tackles against the Steelers, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss.
Yep.
The guy was just hitting dudes in the backfield all day. Felix Anudike-Uzomah got another sack. It was his first one in a while. But this is a defensive line that even without Chris Jones was able to get pressure. We talked about the 5 sacks, but it's more than that. Sacks are not everything. And I think Mike Dana really proved that. This is also a team that Christian Roland Wallace.
Man, we've been talking about him. Philip and I. Yeah.
Led the team in tackles against the Steelers. He had 10 tackles. Now, usually when a cornerback leads your team in tackles, that's a problem. So this is not a trend that I'd like to continue, but
he was great in the open field, though.
Yeah. This was just a full-on team win. There wasn't like one guy against the Steelers on the defensive side that just blew the game up, and it was them against the world. It truly was a committee type defensive game, right? You had 4 different dudes that got sacks. Charles Omenihu, while he didn't get a sack, he was a big part.
Oh, let's just bring that up real quick.
I mean, let's
bring that up. 2 games, dude. 2 games. He's been back. He has changed that defensive line.
Oh, yeah.
No matter who is in there, whether it's Mike Pennell, Mike Dana, it doesn't make a difference. FAU. He is the difference maker in that defensive line. Plain and simple. He has changed everything about what they have done over this entire season. He did it last year. Does anybody remember last year when he didn't come in until week 7? And he ended up, how many sacks did he have on the season? I think 11.
If you give me a minute, I can figure that out. So if you could, keep talking and stall.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I was reading, he said Butker missed one, but that was to be knock off the rust. You know what I think that was too? I think that was partly the fact that the penalty, because kicking a field goal is different than kicking an extra point.
That was a crazy extra point to try and kick.
I mean, it was 48-yard extra point. I mean, that's a pretty hard thing to do. So I think that may have been part of it. You're not used to kicking 48-yard field or extra points. And that's basically what he did. Your step is different. The way you line up is different. It was just a different thing to do. But and I agree, some of it is rust. He missed one last week. He missed one this week. But that's okay. I mean, he's still the best kicker in football, so it is what it is.
He's got to stop doing that stupid knee bend thing.
He does it because of the pressure. He said he puts so much pressure on his leg that he drops down so the pressure relieves off his leg. That's really why he does it. He's done it since he was in college.
No, he didn't do it last year.
He did.
I went back and I literally watched a highlight film of him kicking field goals. He used to kick his leg straight up, right? And almost hop after he kicked the ball. This year is when he started to do that knee drop thing.
You're talking about on his plant leg?
I'm talking on his plant leg.
He
used
did
to hop. And now he's doing that knee drop. JP, I literally watched a highlight film of all of his kicks.
I think he did it before, and I think he had mentioned that if he's putting a lot into the kick, he does it to take the pressure off his plant leg because he puts so much power into that plant leg. That makes sense. I get it. He said, which Chief players should not play against the Broncos game? Every starter. I mean, there's no reason to play.
You don't have that many players on your team. But basically, like the offensive line's going to play. If you want, I think this would be a great opportunity for Kingsley to play left tackle, though. Or one
to play right tackle.
Whoever, one of those guys. I know a month is a long time off, but you still have them. You still have them run up and prep like it's a normal game week. You just don't have them play in the game. Obviously, Carson Wentz is your quarterback. I think that Crocodile Rock needs to be a running back, Steele. So
yeah, you're going to see him. You're probably going to see Pacheco a little bit. If he's not injured, you're going to see him play because he hasn't played enough. You know who else probably should play too? Is Charles Omenihu. he needs to play.
Yeah, I think Hollywood Brown should play. Like
Yeah,
some of
he'll
these
play.
guys that haven't played a ton of snaps, I think are good guys to get in there. But then some of the obvious ones to not play, like Trent McDuffie has no purpose in playing in this game,
No,
right?
none whatsoever.
Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, even if he was completely healthy, those are the kind of guys that I think you should sit. If a guy like a Justin Reed, you know, that was a guy that kind of got banged up yesterday. So the veteran guys, the ones that having them play one game isn't really going to do much for them, especially if you can find younger guys that just haven't had snap opportunities, to come in and get snaps that normally wouldn't be able to get it. You should treat it like preseason game, the old preseason game 3, at the worst, where you're like, okay, you give Patrick Mahomes the first series, right? And then, get the blood moving and everything, and that's it. That's what you do at most.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out in shorts and a t-shirt and he's got the little headphone piece in order to just listen to the plays.
He might. I mean, you never know. Talking about giving a shout out to somebody, I've been doing it all year long, and he proved it again yesterday. Jaden Hicks. That kid is a pure star. Pure star. He is going to be a starter next year within this organization.
Kansas City has just this knack for being able to find defensive backs.
God darn.
Corners, safeties, safety hybrids. It's just like their thing.
And they're very well coached. And that's something that is, God, you can't buy that. I mean, you can, I guess, but you got to find the right people. And we have got the best coaching staff for that group. The secondary is well coached. Hicks does know he's good. He really does know he's good. I think that penalty against him was pretty ticky-tack. I don't think he really did anything it's not like he shot the guy, fake shot a guy or any of that. I think that was pretty stupid. All he did was do the thumbs down. Who cares?
All he had to do was turn 90 degrees. It's because he stood over him.
That's all it was. It's because he
stood. If he would have turned his body and then did it, no penalty.
Yeah, then it would have been no penalty.
The only reason he did it is because he was standing over the guy.
Yeah,
that's like, who was the one who got the other personal foul penalty? Because he lifted his jersey.
Yeah, well, that was they had so many excuses for that one. That was Xavier Worthy. One was, let's see, one was he was stabbing someone with the first movement, and then he lifted his shirt to show a wound, which that wasn't what he was doing. I don't even know what the celebration was.
Because he's showing a pistol, like a holster. He's lifting his. He's lifting his shirt to show a gun. That's what they're
saying he did?
Yeah, he was lifting his shirt to show a gun.
Well, the reason he got the penalty was because you're not supposed to show your skin. That was what I was.
You're not supposed. Yeah, you're not supposed to show a holstered gun or whatever.
Well, he didn't have a gun. He didn't have a holster.
Obviously, so, but you're not allowed to pantomime weapons. I know.
Whatever.
It's the not for fun league.
Fucking fun out of this league, especially against us. We had 9 penalties yesterday.
I know.
Now I understand 5 of those were on Jawan Taylor, or 6, maybe 7. Fuck, I don't know. It's hard to count how many penalties he gets in a game. You just can't catch every time. You can ask it. I swear, my wife was sitting next to me, and I said that fucking Taylor again, and then they call. Well, number 74. That's all he does, man. I mean, he negated so many good plays because of his fucking stupidity. We'd be scoring 35 points a game if it wasn't for him. Anyway, the penalties were a little bit overboard on that part of it. I get why they penalized Taylor. I mean, half the shit he does, I'll be the first one to say it. They don't penalize him for it. He gets away with so much shit. It's pathetic. He was holding TJ Watt by the face mask, and they didn't call it. It's because they're tired of calling penalties on him. Like, how many times are we going to penalize this guy? That's exactly what it is. It's like, fuck, man, we can't keep doing this. The game will last 12 hours. Because he's just not very good. But regardless, it was an interesting turn of events to see some of the guys that stepped in, like Cook, Johnson, Hicks, all of those guys rotate through so well. And it's like we don't miss anything for the most part.
No. And remember, Shamari Connor's injured. Like, he's out in concussion protocol and all that.
Yeah.
So it's like you're missing your main backup back seven guy.
Correct.
Your hybrid corner safety guy.
Exactly. It's crazy to think that when he comes back, we can rotate in the guys that we did
And one.
And exactly. We're gonna just still be as effective.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about that. I can't believe how pissed off the entire fucking NFL is right now. Well, I mean, they hate us, dude, and I love it.
And you know why? This leaves me. I can't come up with a better transition. So I think, and I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on this. I think that this is the best team of the Patrick Mahomes era. And I know the initial thought for a lot of people is going to say, no, it can't be, right? And there are two sort of thought. When I brought this up to people, there are sort of two thoughts. The first thought is they want to go back to the 2019, and that's really the first team that a lot of people push back on, is they say, no, the 2019 team was better. But if you remember, that team really had, like, the defense, yes, for about 3 games, it was really good.
Yeah.
Other than that, that defense was not good. That run defense was atrocious.
From week 6 to week 10, the defense looked like a real defense. That was when it was the best.
Right. And in the playoffs, remember, because, you know, the Titans came to Arrowhead and Frank Clark had his phenomenal interview on this. Like, there, you know, it was a different, but that team itself, that defense was so bad. That run defense was so bad. So I can't include that one because it was so flawed on the defensive side. But same. Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up because, once again, an atrocious that defense, the 2018 defense, was bad.
They were ranked 27th in the league total.
Yeah, 27th. That was both pass and rush defense was bad.
Exactly. It was just bad.
Then the other pushback that I get was the Eagles Super Bowl. But if you remember that was the post Tyreek Hill era, and the Chiefs offense we didn't know what the Chiefs offense was then, right?
Yeah.
It was very much, there was no explosiveness downfield, and the Chiefs had 0 pass rush. Now, the defense wasn't bad, right? Obviously, like, the defense had its good, but there were still big flaws into what that team was. Whereas I think you have the best version of Patrick Mahomes. With Hollywood Brown being back, you still have Travis Kelce. I think that there was both an equal level of explosiveness and creativity on the offensive side, to where I think that passes as one of the better offense. And I think it's going to turn into one of the better offenses of the Mahomes era. And I think when you look at the defense as a whole, they're giving up 18 points a game. It's the best in the NFL. Nobody can run the ball on this defense. They haven't given up a 100-yard running back yet. And Trey McDuffie got an interception. He's 2 interceptions in the last 3 weeks. So I really think if you sit down and sort of run through the Patrick Mahomes era, I think a lot of you guys will come to the same conclusion that I did, that this is the best of the Patrick Mahomes era. This team right now is the best of the Patrick Mahomes era.
You know, I had to think about this for a little bit when you said it. And not from why you said it, but why people assume that other teams were better. The reason is because we're not scoring 36 points a game.
Right. And I think that's a big one, where the offense, you know, this has been the whole conversation all year, is that the big points are not coming on the board. So how can it be? Them. Right.
We don't need them. That's the whole thing. I mean, if you look back at
the big ball control kind of offense.
Yeah. I mean, you look at go back and look at the Brady era. How many times did he score 23, 24, 25 points a game, sometimes less, and still win? When he had a top 5 defense, still won a Super Bowl, top 5 defense. The times that he struggled the most, and this tells you why my argument is why Patrick Mahomes is better than Brady in a lot of ways, is because when Brady's defense fell apart, Brady didn't do so well. I mean, he lost to Eli Manning twice because his defense wasn't that great. So when you really look at it, Mahomes plays the game better than Brady did. He's able to score at will. When he needs to score, he will score. When he wants to move down the field, he'll move down the field. He will get you in that position. Whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, he'll get you in that position. People need to get off the whole, well, you can't score 30 points a game. Who gives a shit? If you're holding people to under what you're scoring, that's all that really matters, because that's how you win. That's the whole premise behind the game.
Yeah, people have the college football mindset, right? Yeah. Where, it's not whether or not you win, it's how you win.
Yeah.
And so they've got
look at how well is that done for Detroit right now?
Right. I mean, you're not wrong. They're still one of the best teams in football, but when you're not flashy and exciting, yes.
I mean, but think about it. They're injured beyond belief.
They're the second best team in the NFC.
In the NFC.
Yeah,
in the NFC.
Until proven otherwise.
I particularly think that the Vikings are better than them. I think the Vikings are a better football team, a more rounded football team than the Detroit Lions. I just do. They win. They have a good defense. They have a good wide receiver that's humble. They got a quarterback that just came out of the fucking woodwork and decided to be a great quarterback at this point. I think they're a better football team. They're a more rounded football team right now simply because they don't have the injuries. They don't have the issues that Detroit has. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's just how I feel about it.
But regardless, I think this is why the Chiefs are where they are in sort of that national perspective. It's just that when Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are, vying for that number one spot, in terms of, they're in the MVP race, and, they're teams that they've blown out teams. They've put up 40 points multiple times. And then you've got Kansas City, who, has won off of a doink and all this other crap. This is where sort of that narrative gets driven. And that's why a lot of people feel Kansas City the way they do. And it is just a narrative-driven thing. And that's why Patrick Mahomes isn't going to win MVP, and it's going to end up being Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, and probably Josh Allen because of the voter fatigue for the MVP. They're not going to give it to a guy 3 times in a row. And that's just sort of the way it is. It's why as I become older and older and more into the sports media world, I care less and less about the awards, because you start to realize about all the extra politics that goes into the awards that are given out. Like when guys like DeMar Hamlin don't win Comeback Player of the Year, and the guy who showed up off his couch and Joe Flacco wins it, you start to realize that there are some people that are voting for this stuff. A lot of people that are voting for this stuff. We don't agree on what the award is supposed to be for, right?
Well, that's the problem though, Quentin, is that people don't realize, okay, MVP is most valuable to your team, not to the fans. They don't realize that when the MVP came out for the season, I should say the one MVP, that's really more designed for, or was designed, should have been, and how it was designed is that, okay, did this guy carry this team on his back? Did this guy make this team who they are? This one player, was he the reason why they are who they are right now?
It's why I think Saquon Barkley needs to be in the discussion.
He is.
It's
he's
not.
In there. He's third.
But it's not. But he's not. People will say he's in the discussion, but Saquon Barkley has no real chance of winning the award. It's a quarterback award.
And I absolutely agree with you. Here's another thing. I said this, and people think I'm crazy. Why the hell is and his name just slipped my mind. The kid, Daniels from the Washington Redskins. Why is he not in the discussion? He just took a 4-win football team and put them in the playoffs. They haven't been to the playoffs in so long. Alex Smith. I'm sorry. What's his face? Kirk Cousins was the last time they were even sniffed a playoff game. And now, because this kid is a rookie, comes out of nowhere, makes him a playoff team. No matter how you look at it, he should be in the discussion. Now, is he in the discussion for Rookie of the Year? Absolutely is. But why isn't he in the MVP discussion? He's done more for his football team. It's expected to watch Lamar Jackson do what he does. He's done it for years. It's expected to see Josh Allen do what he does. It's done for years. Why are we not talking about a kid that just stepped out of a college campus and turned his team around and made him a playoff team? Why aren't we discussing that? Why is he not in that MVP run? Makes no sense to me.
Well,
he's the reason why they are.
It's like Super Bowl MVP. You know, Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowl MVPs. It's, you know, I mean,
should he have all 3 of them? Probably not.
No. I think Williams should have won it in the
Absolutely
first 49ers Super Bowl.
Absolutely,
but it's a quarterback award. I mean, and who was it? Was it Julian Edelman that won it?
Yeah,
the Patriots last one, and it's because
that was
good. No, it just that game was so awful that that was the only reason. Hell, if Nick Bolton, that other fumble, gets returned for a touchdown, he should have won Super Bowl MVP. I can't tell you the last time. What, Von Miller might be the last time a defensive player won Super Bowl MVP?
Yeah, and that was what, 2014?
2015?
Yeah. So I mean,
almost 10 years ago. And then before that, I couldn't tell you who was the last. I mean, it's just the quarterback. Oh, did your team win? Oh, it's the quarterback.
Yeah.
Are you
But it's really not. I mean, that's the thing.
Who's the number 1 or number 2 seed in the AFC, NFC? Okay, there are 4 quarterbacks. Which one of those had the best year? Okay, that's the quarterback that's going to win MVP of the NFL.
I mean, I'm surprised. Look, man, the way fans are and the way people, and a lot of times people, like, especially when it's a media-driven award, a lot of times they don't want to look stupid. I look at all the people that had Caleb Williams going to the fucking playoffs this year. What did I say? Quentin, I know you remember because we talked about it on this show. I said he wasn't going to win more than 4 games. Where's he at right now? 4 games. If he wins another one, I'll stand corrected. He's not what everybody thought he was. He's just not. He's got good wide receivers. He's got a good offensive line. He's got good running backs.
Well, I wouldn't say good.
They're not bad. None of them are bad. Why isn't Daniels in this conversation? He should be. He's done things that no other rookie has done this year as a quarterback. Not one. Nobody's done what he's done. But he's not even in the conversation, especially for a team that hasn't done shit. It'd be different if he stepped into a playoff team. Then you could say, okay, he stepped into a playoff team. He really didn't do that much. He stepped into a team that won 4 games last year. 4 fucking games. And he's not even a thought in anybody's mind. It just doesn't make sense to me, man.
It's a narrative-driven thing, man.
It really is. It's sad because that kid really, in my opinion, he deserves a nod.
It's why, like, Offensive Player of the Year is a better award than MVP.
I agree. I
mean, because, or like Defensive Player of the Year is a better award than MVP.
Yeah, but nobody's going to give it, and honestly, nobody will even give him that. They'll give him Rookie of the Year, most likely. That's probably what they'll do.
Even that's a quarterback award.
Yeah, but that's what they'll give him. And even there's probably rookies out there that have done things, I guess, if another rookie wins it and is not, which is not going to be a quarterback because nobody's done what he's done as a rookie. Say if they would decide, people are so fucking obsessed with wide receivers and other positions that are flashy positions to a degree. They would never do that. So it's just a weird situation. These awards, and look, I think Mahomes and everybody else has learned these awards don't mean dick. And somebody said something the other day, he's just looking for clout. What clout's he looking for? The only clout he wants is that fucking ring on his finger.
Yeah, the only like, the hardware in your award chest, and then when we start talking about like, greatest of all time, the hardware matters.
Yeah.
So like the reason that people will still argue Peyton Manning is a better quarterback than Tom Brady, and one
Which
of
I
the
think he
things that they,
was.
which I know, and so the first thing that they'll go to is they'll
What's about
say,
the
hey,
rings? Yeah.
it's right, it's about the rings. And if you say that Peyton Manning was a better quarterback than Tom Brady, what's the first argument? Oh, the MVPs that he won, because he
Yeah.
has like what, 4 or 5, something like that.
Well, it's like Aaron Rodgers. He had 2 back-to-back MVPs.
Yeah, see, it's stuff like that, right? That's when those things matter, is when you start having those discussions about who is the best to do it. That's when those things matter, because when you start talking about eye test stuff, well, that's subjective. But when you start talking about hardware, that's fact. It's fact that you know Peyton Manning has more MVPs than Tom Brady, right? It's fact that Tom Brady has more Super Bowl rings than Peyton Manning.
But you
So
know what? What's not fact? What is not fact is that it's not just one guy that gets you to the Super Bowl. It's
that's
not
true.
just one player. I mean, look, Peyton Manning had a 15th or worse defense for the majority of his career in with the Colts. The majority of his career, 15th or worse. Tom Brady, for the majority of his career, top five defense every fucking year. And the 2 years he didn't have it, Eli Manning beat him. He had Randy fucking Moss, one of the best wide receivers that's ever played this game. Couldn't win a Super Bowl with him. That tells you everything you need to know. If you're going to put every ounce of your thought process into, well, he's got 7 rings, that doesn't mean dick. Look at what he got to play with. Look at what he had helping him get to those 7 rings. Well, even when he went to the Bucks, for Christ's sake, they were a fucking phenomenal defense. And look what happened. Let's just bring this up. Does anybody remember when Brady lost 9-0 to the fucking Saints?
Yeah, that, and on the opening day as a Buccaneer. Yeah.
Let's think about this. He couldn't even get into fucking field goal range because he was missing 2 of his players. 2. 2. 2 players. The Saints were able, on that good defense that they had, were at least able to get into field goal range. So it's not a quarterback only that's going to get you there. Mahomes knows that. That's why he's playing the game the way he is.
Let me ask you this, and then this will probably wrap up the show. If/when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and they three-peat, right? Kansas City becomes the best dynasty in NFL history.
Absolutely.
Does that, and that'll give him 4 Super Bowl rings?
Yeah.
At what point can we start to have like the real discussion, greatest of all time?
That day.
When
That
he has the three-peat?
That
So
day.
his 4 Super Bowl rings and the fact that he won back to back to back equates more, 3 other rings.
4 rings under the age of 30. Let's think about that. That's first of all. 5 Super Bowl appearances under the age of 29, or at the age of 29. That would be his 5th Super Bowl appearance. I'd say, yeah, that would put him as the GOAT. Let's just, even if we took out the entire conversation of three-peat, okay, that wasn't even a mention right now. Getting to those accolades at such a young age puts you in that position. But then you add the three-peat on top of it, best that's ever played the game. With what he's had to, look, this year alone, even last year for that matter, take those 2 years combined and what he's had to deal with. 41 drops last year. 41 drops. This year, no wide receivers. Lost his 2 best wide receivers. Lost his running back. Everything that he has had to deal with, learning with a rookie out there, a rookie kid, 21 years old. Everything he's had to deal with in his 15-1.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the defense is a huge part of that, but you have to score points. Doesn't matter how good your defense is, unless you want to tie 0-0 game. That's the only way it's going to get any better. Right now, I don't. And this, look, if he played for the fucking Raiders, as much as I hate to say this, I would still say he's the best that's ever played this game. What he is able to do, his mindset, his ability to score at will, his ability to make things happen when nobody else would ever believe in a million years it would happen. No other quarterback would be able to do what he does on a consistent basis. You know, he's had seven games this year that he's had to comeback games. 7 in one season. I don't see how anyone could actually think for a second that he's not the best quarterback that's ever played this game.
I think that, yeah, you know, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but
the only thing he doesn't have is time, dude.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. Time. You know, he's got to keep it up.
Think about it, dude. He's 29, just turned 29. Okay, he's got another minimum of 10 years in this league. 10 fucking years still. And that doesn't mean that he can't play beyond that. I'm just saying he's got 10 more years minimum of great football in him. How can anybody assume that he's not the best that's ever played this game? No other quarterback has done what he's done in the minimal time he's been able to do it. Absolutely, he would be.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. If he retired today, he'd be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah. It's not even
I don't care about the 7 fucking rings. I mean, you can go back and look at Joe Montana. He's got 4 rings. Still top 3, 4 quarterback in this league or in the NFL ever.
Yeah, but it's not my opinion that matters. It's the national perspective. And
you got to
make sure that he's got.
And that's why he's going to push to those 8 rings.
I know. Because you got to make it to where there's no. Because if he ends it with 6 rings, the argument will be, well, Brady has 7.
Exactly. And
so
that's.
You got to tie at least. At least
tie. If you tied it today, you know what the other argument's going to be? Here's the funny part. This is the greatest part of all of it. If he got 8 rings, say if he got 8 rings in his career.
That's so many, dude.
I know, but just say he did. Just say he got 7 or 8 rings, whatever. He tied Brady. He passed him by 1. Do you realize that people are going to say he's still not the GOAT? Brady beat him twice.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
They are not saying, okay, wait a minute. Mahomes doesn't play against Brady. He plays against the defense. Let me use my fucking logic.
That's why. Well, I hate quarterback wins as a stat.
Me too. Me too. But when a quarterback actually wins the game for you, you got to give him props.
Yeah, that's why generic quarterback wins. If we went by generic quarterback wins, Jimmy Garoppolo would be one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history.
Absolutely.
But hey, man, we all can watch football and know that Jimmy Garoppolo is a below average quarterback at best.
He's not even in the league. But let's talk about Trent Dilfer. The guy threw for 89 yards in a Super Bowl and won. What's that tell you? He sucked. He was not good. His defense, Ray Lewis got him to a Super Bowl. You want to talk about a team that, if you really want to bring up a team that's carried by their defense, let's talk about that Ravens team. Because that's who Ray Lewis got him to a Super Bowl. There's no doubt about that. Everybody knows that. His stats were fucking, they were third string quarterback stats that entire year. And he won a Super Bowl. That's who's carried by your defense. When you're able to score at will, when you need to, when you're able to put up enough points to win a football game, then you're doing your job. So all this talk about people, oh, he's carried by his defense. Well, go fuck yourself. Go back and look at some time. Look at the games that have went on. Look at the Super Bowls that have been won by people like Trent Dilfer, and then come back and have a conversation about that.
Joe Flacco.
I mean, guys like that are the guys you goes, okay, well, he was carried by his defense. He didn't win shit. You're right, he didn't. Can't say that about Mahomes. Brad Johnson, another great fucking example. A defense carried Super Bowl win.
I mean, Eli Manning.
Eli Manning. His stats were never that
Hell,
great.
Peyton Manning when he was with the Broncos.
Yeah. I mean, his
And
last
he got
year,
benched that year.
he did. He had noodle arm. He had noodle arm.
Yeah.
So you
Ben
can't.
Roethlisberger early in his career.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Or late in his career. Um, it's just how people perceive things because they want to. It's funny. All the teams that hated Brady, fan bases or fans of other teams that hated Brady throughout his 23-year career now hate Mahomes and love Brady. Isn't that fucking weird? Isn't that just weird how that works out?
They hate us because they ain't us.
Exactly. So hate all you want. Don't give a shit. Anyway, we got some time to kill. So, well, not today, but we're going to be talking more about what's going to happen next week on Tuesday. Oh, no. When is that game? Is that game?
No, they haven't announced it because it'll either be
That's
on
right.
Saturday or Sunday.
Will asked the question. Let's answer him real quick. He says,
Sure.
Who do we want? Who would you guys want, Broncos or Bengals? Here's my opinion. I'd rather have the Bengals. This is why. I don't care what, don't give a shit what Burrow's done or Chase has done to this point during this season. All I remember is 4 receptions for 8 yards. The year prior to that, 4 receptions, 26 yards. Chase can't ride with McDuffie. He just can't. What I did notice is that Sutton put the hurt on McDuffie. I don't know why, but he did.
I'd much rather it be the Broncos. Even though the Bengals are overall not a good football team, that offense is still really good. Joe Burrow is still really good.
He's just not really good against us.
It's that defense that's just been atrocious. Whereas I'm facing a rookie quarterback in the playoffs with Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid. I'll take that.
Yeah, but you know what kind of makes me a little nervous, again, with the Broncos? Their defense is pretty damn good. They are a good defense. They know us better than
why they really are only going to face us once because the Chiefs aren't putting anything on tape against them on Saturday or Sunday.
Well, that is kind of true.
So you're not facing them twice this year.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Honestly, it really doesn't because, look, I think it's going to be a Ravens-Chiefs AFC Championship game. And I think it's going to be a Rams-Eagles NFC Championship game.
I can almost agree with that. I can see the Rams and I can see the Vikings against the Eagles. I don't see any of the other teams in the NFC getting to the AFC Championship game. Or the NFC Championship game. AFC, I don't think the Bills are going to get to that point. I just don't. They've given up way too many points, way too many yards. Now we're coming into our own. Other teams have come into their own. The Ravens actually look like a pretty good football team.
I think the Ravens are going to go to Buffalo and they're going to beat them.
I think so too. I think that's exactly what will happen. And I will dance when that happens.
And the Ravens are going to come here and the Chiefs will beat them.
Yep.
So I think I think it's going to be a Chiefs Rams Super Bowl in New Orleans.
Did Josh Allen hurt his hand? No, he didn't. He got it. He hit his funny bone. Just telling you what he told the media. His other hand, which I don't understand how this is a thing and how he got away with this. Supposedly, he's played with a broken hand, since week 3 of this season. Why he was never on the injury report once is mind-boggling. But he supposedly hit his funny bone, and that's why he was trying to get the feeling back because he had, the pins and needles type of thing. That's the story he told after the game. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what he says. Now, hold on. Let's think about this. If he loses this week or any point during the playoffs, it's because of his hand. And it was more than just the funny bone. He really did injure it, but nobody knew about it. That's the story you're going to get. Just letting you know now, that's what's going to happen. But right now they say he had a funny bone issue. Who knows, man? Anyway, I like Josh Allen. I think he's a great player. I think he's a little overzealous. I think he just pushes himself to a point where he's done things that, he shouldn't have to do. Let's put it that way. If he had a better football team, better coach, much better coach, can't stand McDermott, terrible coach. I think he would probably be better off if he didn't have to do the things that he does. But he pushes himself to a point where he gets records because he has to, not because he just wants to. Now that's sad, because he is a good quarterback. Probably second, third best in the league. Probably second best in the league. Just is what it is. Got to feel for Buffalo fans at some point. They've been there 4 times and they've gotten their ass kicked all 4 times. So, with that being said, what else we got?
That's all. Until Chiefs will play the Broncos in Denver at some point next week. The Chiefs haven't announced the next week's schedule. All of that will be determined at the end, probably Monday morning.
Yeah.
When all the games are done, they'll determine who's playing who, all the divisional games. The NFL wants to make sure that there are no games that matter that'll be played before the games that don't matter. So teams won't, strategically sit guys. So,
hey, do you know what day of the week this year that we haven't played a football game?
What, Tuesday?
Yep. It's the only day of the week that we have not played a football game this season.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, I mean, the expansion of the NFL and the, Chiefs being the number 1 product.
Yep.
I'm happy that, look, the Chiefs got through. This was part of the schedule we circled going all the way back to whenever the hell the schedule was released. We were like, this is the gauntlet. This is the true testament. You face three teams, 2 individual great pass rushers, and you prove that, you can do it. So this is who the Chiefs are moving forward. 23 days now until the Chiefs play a meaningful football game. And we're ready to rock Kansas City.
Absolutely. Get ready for the rest of the NFL, because what you just seen the last 3 weeks or 11 days is what you're going to be facing, but even worse. They're going to embarrass people now because of what they've been through this year. And I'm proud of it. I'm happy they're going to. This 11 days shows everything you need to know about this football team. Who will be the left tackle in the playoffs? That's going to be interesting. Right now, it's probably going to be Tooney.
It'll be Tooney. What they're doing is working right now. They're going to stick with it.
Absolutely. And I think Caliendo is going to stick where he's at.
Yeah, this is the offensive line moving forward.
It is. The question will be, will Taylor end up with an injury and someone else step in? That's going to be the question. The only thing I would say is they don't call a lot of holding penalties in playoffs and Super Bowl, so they may just leave him in there. They're just going to have to give him some help because he's not good. With that being said, we'll talk to you guys again, next Tuesday?
Tuesday. Yep, next Tuesday.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining in. Peace out, everybody.
See ya.